Depending on how well you've known clergy through your life, you may or may not be surprised what I'm about to say. Clergy can be very competitive with each other. It's something that just fills our society, and so there always will be a little bit of, am I better than he or she, and that sort of dynamic in the backs of people's minds. But what's fascinating to me is to watch clergy gather in fairly large groups, things like the DAS Convention or Clergy Days, and see how they interact. And I've been ordained long enough to see all kinds of different interactions, most very positive, most certainly good models of Christian living. But there was one fellow who earned a nickname among the clergy, and it was Bigger and Better Bob. Bigger and Better Bob, no matter what anyone said, had always done something bigger and better than the first person had described. So, if some priest was talking about how blessed they were by having a new choir, Bigger and Better Bob would talk about, well, I have 2 new choirs at my church. Another priest or deacon might say, well, I'm really excited. I'm getting to publish a book. And Bigger and Better Bob would immediately say, well, I published 8 books, which incidentally were all self-published. My favorite example, though, was when someone said, we have people in our congregation now baking our communion bread we have here at Holy Family. Though it wasn't here, none took place in Indiana. And Bigger and Better Bob said, oh, you have someone baking your communion bread? That's very nice. In my church, we grow the wheat. So I know, no matter where we go, we have this competitive, bigger, and better sense at some level in our hearts. The more mature among us, it's going to be tapped down and kept under control most of the time. But this morning's gospel is a great counter to those times when we had trouble with the bigger and better of life, of society, of expectations. Because we have here the story of Jesus speaking in Capernaum in the synagogue. Now, this is not just a story that's dropped out of the sky out of the clear blue, but instead it's a continuation of what we've been hearing over the last number of weeks. And it started with Jesus feeding the thousands using some bread and some fish. He's feeding the multitude. And then the next adventure is Jesus speaking to a group that had followed Jesus via boat. So it's not going to be thousands that were able to do that. And now we're in Capernaum, where Jesus is speaking in the synagogue. And the synagogue in Capernaum wasn't much bigger, if at all bigger, than Holy Family is now. And so we went from reading these stories, thousands in the audience, maybe hundreds, to dozens. Jesus was not on a career track that most people would envy. It was getting smaller and smaller, the crowds to whom he was preaching. And then within this morning's story, we have it winnowed down to basically the 12, and since John often leaves out, probably some women followers as well. So let's say by the end of this morning's gospel, Jesus is down to about 2 dozen people. 2 dozen people following Jesus after he'd been preaching the Gospel of John for 1 or 2 years, where for the rest of the Gospel, Jesus is going to travel through the area of Galilee almost alone. In some of the stories, no one's mentioned as being with him, none of his followers, and others, it goes back to the 12 and a few women. The crowd does not reappear until Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead, just before Palm Sunday and Holy Week starts. But the crowd does not reappear until the ultimate miracle takes place. And then they're there for the great procession into Jerusalem, all the shouting and waving of palms. And then by the end of the week, Jesus is once again alone with just a few of the apostles and a few of the women who are following him as he walks to his death. So Jesus does not have this great triumphant career march in the Gospel of John. Quite the opposite. And I think there's a very good reason why John describes it in this way. And that is that God knows well our inclination, our sort of inner drive to bigger and better. That at times Christian theology, including the times we're in today, gets corrupted by the idea that if you're successful, that means God is blessing you, and that if you are faithful and loved by God, you will get more and more stuff. That's called the prosperity gospel. But John here gives us a corrective. We're not here to get more stuff. We're not on earth for that purpose. We are not called by God to be the biggest success possible, bigger and better, bigger and better. Instead, we're called to be faithful. And instead, we are called to be aware of how at times the crowds will get smaller. At times, life will have failures. At times, life will be disappointing. Sometimes we'll face illness. Sometimes we'll face divorce. We'll face job loss. We'll face unexpected death. All sorts of things that knock us flat. And what's crucial for us to know is that those are not moments that God has cursed us with, that God has given us on purpose to teach us. Instead, those are moments where just life is happening, where human free will is screwing things up once again, or whatever it is that has caused something to happen. God doesn't will for us to fail. God doesn't will for us to hurt. But here, God's beloved one, the one begotten of God, is failing and will be hurted soon afterwards, is not going to be a great success story. And part of the lesson for us in that is that we can know that God understands what human life really is like. Because Jesus went through it. And all of the things that Jesus experienced as a human being are now intimately part of God. The times when Jesus stepped up to teach and see people wandering off in the back because what he was saying was too difficult to hear. The times when Jesus looked out and saw the only reason anyone was there was to see what the special effects were going to be that day. The times when Jesus actually faced death and betrayal because of what he believed in, even though he was innocent from the crimes of which he was being accused. All of that is now in God's mind. All of that is part of God's mind. All of that is part of who God is. And therefore, we can be deeply assured that when we have those times when we're the exact opposite of bigger and better, God gets what that is like and knows how we are called to be loved, knows how we need to be loved, knows that we are hurting, and what that feels like. Too often, we think we have to find God. Too often we think that God is off somewhere and we need to work hard to get there. When in fact, the way it works is God is with us all the time. From the time of our birth, from the time of our death and beyond. God is always there. And our challenge is to open ourselves up to be aware of it, to recognize that. And it's not easy to do. That's why there are so many pages in the Scripture. That's why we need to go to church each week. That's why we need to be loved by human beings so that we can have a glimmer of what God's constant, eternal, and unending love for each of us is like. But all too often, we get into the bigger and better mindset and think we have to pull ourselves up by our own spiritual bootstraps and climb a ladder to God, climb a mountain to God, or achieve great things so that we can be part of it. We don't. God knows what our lives are like. God created us. God loves us. And each moment of our lives, God is loving us eternally, constantly, unconditionally. And it's the hardest thing for us as human beings to remember. If I could desire one thing for the whole human race, it probably would be that our bigger and better inclination would be a bigger and better awareness of how we are each beloved children of God. Each, every one of us. We don't have to go out and grow wheat to have communion. Instead, we simply have to open our hands, and communion is given to us by God. We don't have to go out and achieve great things so that God loves us. Instead, it happens each and every day. We may look out on a given day and feel like how Jesus probably felt when the crowds were getting smaller and smaller. It looked like his ministry was fading. God knows what that's like. And that's a time to turn and feel the love that God has for us in that moment and every moment of our lives. That's not special effect Christianity. That's not always easy to talk about because we can't say you get a new Mercedes-Benz by loving God in just the right way. But when we open our hearts to the love that's already there for us, we then are empowered to change the world. Because we know out of our own brokenness how much the world needs God's love and the love that we can express through our lives to the world around us. It's not something that's glamorous. It's usually everyday roll up your sleeves being nice to people. And that's not bigger and better, but it changes the world. It changes lives one by one as people begin to perhaps feel through our attitudes and actions and words that they are special, because they are. All of us are. All of us beloved children of God. All of us in need of love. All of us broken. All of us in need of healing. All of us capable of doing miracles. Because God loves us. Always has, always will. In the bigger and better moments, and the lesser and lesser moments. God is with us. God loves us. And simply wants us to love others in return. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.